Stanford University's Institute for Economic Policy Research just came out with a new study this week. And the study found that the IRS audits Black taxpayers 3 to 5 times more than non-Black taxpayers. They're blaming it on the algorithm, but I'm not quite buying that. I'm going to go over all of this, and if you ever find yourself in this situation, you'll be able to survive it if you watch till the end. Hi, welcome to the Finance Rebel channel. If you're new here, I'm Kamari Ellis, the Finance Rebel. During the day, I'm a tax accountant. I help taxpayers and my clients fight the IRS and all their big tax bills. And also, I help them be strategic and proactive about legally and ethically reducing their tax bills by claiming their rightful tax deductions. Today, we're going to talk about the Stanford study where they found that Black taxpayers get audited 3 to 5 times more than non-Black taxpayers. Now, the name of the study is called Measuring and Mitigating Racial Disparities in Tax Audits. I'm going to put that in a link below so you can actually read it for yourself. It makes for great bedtime reading. Here's a bit of background on this. Stanford University coordinated this study with a lot of other institutions, the University of Michigan, the University of Chicago, and the Treasury Department. Side note, did you know that the IRS is actually supervised by the Treasury Department? To conduct this research, the team had to go through over 148 million tax returns. Also, they had to go through 780,000 tax audits. That's a lot of data to go through. Now, before I go any further, I want to take a moment to explain to you what exactly a tax audit is and how they occur. The tax system in the United States is based on the honor system. The IRS expects people to be honest and transparent and forthcoming when it comes to their income and any deductions they may claim on their tax returns. But the IRS isn't dumb, so they know people are going to cheat. They know people are going to lie. They know people are going to cover things up. So they enforce the tax laws by issuing audits. They'll require a taxpayer to prove their income and sometimes their expenses. And in doing so, they'll make the taxpayer submit information to prove that these claims are real. Now, audits usually happen one of 2 or 3 ways. Usually, you'll get a mail audit, which is called a correspondence audit, or an IRS employee will meet with the taxpayer, either in person, out in the field, sometimes at the taxpayer's business or home, or sometimes, which is a new thing, they'll do a virtual call. Audits can be kind of random, and there's this whole algorithm thingy that the IRS has that they kind of call like a Coke formula because it's top secret and nobody really knows what's in there. So this is what I can say about audits and how the IRS picks people to be audited. A lot of times they are randomly audited, meaning it could just be the luck of the draw that a taxpayer gets their name called and then they have to show up and prove their tax returns are lawful and ethical and actually truthful, right? That's number one. Number two, taxpayers could do something that draws what's called a red flag or draws the algorithm, the special algorithm to flag certain tax returns because there might be an error on a tax return or there might be fraud on a tax return. For example, let's say you're filing children on your tax return and you misspelled one of your child's names wrong. That might get your return audited, possibly. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. 70% of audits are correspondence audits, which actually happen over snail mail. And interestingly enough, 50% of those audits are EITC, or Earned Income Tax Credit audits. Now, oddly enough, many of these audits are taking place in the southern states, your Georgias, Mississippis, Alabamas, Louisianas. And again, most of them are Black. A lot of them are Black. And many of them are claiming EITC. And what does EITC stand for? Earned Income Tax Credit. Many of them are claiming Earned Income Tax Credits. So sadly, a lot of times Black people have a negative relationship with governmental agencies. They get this snail mail. Again, sometimes the mail isn't even delivered, or it might be overlooked, or it might not even be opened, right? But If that happens, oftentimes these correspondence audits go ignored. And then after a certain period of time, once they are ignored, the IRS or the EIC claims are disallowed. And so that means they are lowering their refund and or creating a situation where taxpayers have a bill to pay, a tax bill to pay. Again, many times Black people have a negative relationship with governmental authorities. They don't like to see mail from them. They won't open mail from them. Plus it's coming through snail mail. So a lot of them sometimes don't even get it. There has been many reports of USPS, post office employees just kind of discarding their mail. But nonetheless, a lot of times people don't get this mail, and so they miss out on this. So you have to be really careful about claiming EIC, right? Because a lot of times, especially as we get into this new age, sometimes we have parents who are not getting along, and one may say they can claim the child, the other one may say they can't claim the child. Sometimes you have people who are rushing to claim the child before the other one so they can get the tax refund money faster. And so sometimes that creates an issue. I can see how that plays into this big audit disparity. But also we are seeing that the algorithms are an issue as well. But again, a lot of times the IRS is pinpointing Black folks at a higher rate than anyone else. So here's what you want to do going forward. If you're worried about getting targeted by this, make sure you file an accurate tax return. Make sure the dependents on your tax return are accurate. The name is accurate. The Social Security is accurate. Okay. Now, if you might be having an argument with your baby mama, baby daddy, try to come to an agreement on who's going to claim the child. Now, the IRS has strict rules about who's a dependent, who's not a dependent. Residency comes into play with all of that. You want to make sure you're following all those guidelines, because if you're not following those guidelines or there's some kind of friction, it could indeed trigger an audit. And a lot of times that's no fun. Again, I'm Kamari Ellis. If you've enjoyed this video, do me a favor, subscribe and share this out with someone who you think this could be helpful to. Now, question of the day. Do you really think this is just some coincidence, or do you think that the IRS is truly targeting Black taxpayers? Drop a comment below. I would love to hear what you have to say. Until next time, I'll see you soon.